On today's show, we're talking about everything in Mark Gurman's newsletter. I'm Mike Dave, and I simplify Apple so that everything just works for you. And yes, today we are talking about Mark Gurman's Bloomberg Power On letter. So this is his newsletter he sends out every Sunday, and it is, to be honest, the best stuff that comes out over the weekend because generally everyone is kind of snoozing at the weekends. Now, if I look a little bit puffy today, I seem to have some allergy stuff. I cannot stop sneezing, so apologies for that. I sound a little bit bunged up, but we're going to get cracking on this. So, starts off with this week my initial thoughts on iPhone 13 and what it might mean for the iPhone 14. Also, Microsoft Corp and Amazon Inc. are planning a slew of new devices, and Europe tries to force Apple Inc. to make an iPhone charger change it should have made years ago. Now, I have got an apology to make, James Apple. I misunderstood your question. I thought you were talking about the EU stuff that had already happened. You were talking about this new stuff. Apologies for that. But we will be coming on to that stuff. So, for starters, basically Mark is saying that the iPhone 13, not a massive jump over the 12, which I think is fair, but most people aren't intending to upgrade every year. I don't think really anyone should. I certainly don't. I'm keeping my 12 Pro Max for another year because the 14 looks pretty epic. So, he just goes through the new features, but he does say that ProMotion is the most noticeable, and I still don't have hands-on with that. Ceram Bytes, he's got it, and he loves it, so okay, I'm going to have to try it out. I might have to pop into an Apple store when I get a chance and give that a try. If any of you guys have picked up an iPhone 13 Pro, let me know in the comments. Does the ProMotion make much difference to you? Now, this is an interesting point. He says that the camera apps do look like they are starting to be a bit too cluttered with all the new features that have been added, and that's an interesting point because I do think that there's a lot of stuff in there now. Maybe we need some different way of switching between the different camera modes. Maybe we need a video app that's separate from the stills camera app. Maybe that's the sort of thing that Apple might do soon, because there are a lot of video modes now. We've got the cinematic mode, we've got time-lapse, we've got slow motion. So there's quite a bit of stuff in there now to deal with. Now, it could be that Apple adds a basic kind of bokeh background effect mode that doesn't have all of the rack focus stuff. That might be something that comes next year, and maybe that actually allows us to use 4K because there isn't as much data being collected for that. But that's something to look forward to. He also says that the battery life is basically as long as advertised, which is great because the new battery lives on the iPhone 13 range is pretty sweet. You get an hour and a half extra for the mini, you get 2.5 hours on the regular, and then I think 1.5 for the Pro and 2.5 for the Pro Max, which is just, that's a big improvement in battery life for something that's not really changed size. Also, I think it's important to point out that buying the iPhone 12 that's still in the range at $100 less than the iPhone 13 is a really bad deal because you are still only getting 64 gigs of storage with that, whereas you're getting 128 with everything else. So even just that upgrade is like $50, I think, at least. So yeah, I'd just steer clear of the 12s. And then he goes on to talk about the iPhone 14 getting a major redesign. So basically Mark Gurman is confirming not necessarily the designs that John Prosser leaked, but he says a full redesign across the range. So that's Pros and regular. It looks like the Pros are going to get that hole punch camera. They're going to get the titanium frame with the edge-to-edge glass, front and back, that literally is flush to the edge of that frame. Very reminiscent of the iPhone 4. I think we talked about this probably early last week, but my word, that thing looks awesome. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. I've got to say, one of my favourite things is the fact that they're kind of flattening out the camera bump, so they're kind of incorporating that in. That will give space for a lot more battery if they decide to do that, if the glass on either side is kind of concave on the inside, so there's room for more stuff, but we will see. But they might need that thickness of glass to give it the toughness that it needs when it's going to be sitting on top of that frame. So we will see. Oh, and then next up in his newsletter, we have the USB-C being forced on Apple, it looks like, via the European Union. This is going to be something that has to be used basically for anything that's a phone, a tablet, headphones, and a whole bunch of other categories, not smartwatches, not laptops. So those things are safe. And right now, the Lightning port is only really used on the iPhones and the entry-level iPad. Now, it's used on a few other peripherals, things like the Apple TV remote, the Magic Keyboard and mouse, and a few other bits and bobs like that, but nothing major. Oh, AirPods Max would be the other one, which I get that is a confusing one, because there are probably people that would buy those for non-Apple devices, and using a standard connector for that would make a lot more sense. He then goes on to talk about some stuff that Amazon wants to release, so the Echo Wall, which is basically a big Echo Show, I guess. So the Echo with a screen on it, 15 inches, not really that big, but you know, bigger than a big old iPad, so I guess that is kind of big, and that's designed to go on your wall, and lets you video chat, all that kind of stuff. Now, Apple has done a great job with the video chat for something like that. I mean, you could probably pick up $329 iPad now, mount that on your wall, use center stage, and away you go. You've got kind of a really good device for using in that kind of way. I think that might be quite a compelling option for a lot of people, to have one permanently in their kitchen that's cabled in, never gets charged, you know, it just sits there on power all the time. If you Bluetooth connect that to a couple of HomePods, that's going to sound pretty awesome as well for your kitchen. I can see a lot of people using those 10.2 inch $329 iPads as like home hubs. I think those would be a really good use case for that. He then goes on to talk about all the Microsoft stuff that's also got updated. Talked about the Surface Studio laptop, which is the one that kind of looks like a MacBook Pro, but then it's also got like a stand underneath it that's got all the fans in it, because it runs on presumably Intel, and you know, needs a bigger battery and loads of cooling, hilariously. But they made it smaller so it looks like it's floating. And he says that he's not particularly impressed with the Surface Duo, which is their kind of folding phone with the two screens. I do still like that notification bit on the inside. I think that's pretty cool. So there is an Amazon event coming up for hardware, Amazon devices, and that's on Tuesday at 9 AM Pacific, which I'm not quite sure what time that would be here. I would guess that's 5 PM UK time, which would be 4 UTC if you're running on that like me. That might be interesting to watch. Also, we've got Google's Pixel 6 is coming soon with its Tensor chips. I don't think we've seen the performance on that yet. Interesting to see how that stacks up against A14, A15 chips. And he also says the wait for the MacBook Pro is almost over. Didn't appear at the September event unveiling, but should be coming in the next weeks. So that's Gurman's newsletter. It's kind of is there any news in it? I don't think there is anything new news, but interesting nonetheless. The one thing I didn't know about was the Amazon stuff. That'll be interesting to see what they actually come out with at the event, and see if that iPad 10.2 inch is actually a better alternative for most people. Now, I've had a couple of bits sent over from Joby, so we will be unboxing and playing with these later in the week, so keep your eyes open for that one. That'll be an extra video on top of the normal daily videos. And obviously we've also got the two 10.2 inch iPads, which are for my kids. I did a quick short when they arrived, pulling them out of the box. Those are going to be set up as kids' devices, and I'm going to be doing some kind of iPad how-to videos. There's things like how to install apps that an older iPad says that you can't on them. That's quite a useful thing to be able to know. Obviously, we won't have that problem with the brand new ones, but if you are using older iPads for your kids, that's a really interesting thing. But we're going to go through the full family setup with these, because at the moment they've all been using stuff on my account, but with these iPads that they're getting for Christmas, or possibly before, depends on if we need to use them before then, they're going to be set up as their own kids' accounts with all of the family control stuff, so that they can request apps and I can authorize them from my stuff, all that kind of thing. So we're going to go through that, how you set it up for anyone out there that is looking to use iPads for their kids. And then we just have one iCave answer today. So this is from Josh. And by the way, if you want to ask a question in the shows, hashtag iCave answers down in the comment section with your question. Josh asks, iCave answers, what is your favourite colour for Apple devices? Now, it's going to be a bit of a weird one. It's not actually got a name, I don't think, but it is the finish that they put on the Mac Pro trash can. It had this like deep kind of shiny browny black kind of very deep copper kind of look to it, and I think it was absolutely stunning. I wanted to see it on more stuff. They haven't done that, but that is what I would want to see it on. Let me know your favourite Apple device colours down in the comments section. And thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you've got this far and haven't already. Thank you so much for watching.